another battle report. I decided to crack out the Toon Kings again, and after a couple of encouraging games using a whole lot of action figures, I decided to try out the whole speedy notion, and I've thrown in a bit more magic to just make life more interesting. This game, for those who need the info, we play standard missions, we played rulebook scenarios, rulebook terrain, and we rolled up a pitch battle this game, so nothing particularly fancy happening. And we'll start off with my deployment. So we see a fairly defensive deployment over here. It's near the back left of the table. We'll get a fuller picture a bit later. This here shows us these necrosphinx, the chariots and the skeletons all sitting back behind the building. You can see just on the left there it's my Hydra Titan, and the casket's of course sitting right at the back. In that skeleton unit we're sitting with my Hierophant, who has nothing but a Dispel Scroll, and the king, who is actually geared to take on big things. He's got a Destroyer, he's got other Trickster's Shard, and he has the Dragonbane gem talisman, the 5-pointer. So here we can see the next set of deployment on the left, and I've obviously looked for quite a strong damaging flank on this side. So I've got the 6 Snake Knights, I've got the War Sphinx, it's got a Fiery Roar obviously, and we have the Hydra Titan. So lots of Stompy and Thunder Stompy goodness, and just a really hard flank to crack on that side. Where the right flank's a lot faster, a lot squishier, I'm hoping to turn it on him. So we'll see how that all works out. And just a broader view of everything. So you can see I'm looking to turn everything around by pushing hard on the right very quickly and trying to crunch in on his. I'll give some close-ups shortly and show how his deployment actually looks. Okay, moving swiftly along. So here we see his right flank, and we have 2 sets of blowpipe skinks. We have 2 individual salamanders. We have 2 frogs. So on the rightmost we have a shadow frog. On the leftmost we have a light frog who is his general. It's got rumination on both of them, and I found out later in the game one of them's got the Cube of Darkness, the other one has the Forbidden Rod. It's something you don't see all that often, and it's actually rather frightening when you have to walk right into it. So then we see it slightly off to the middle. It's got an ancient steg with 5 million blowpipes on it. It's got a unit of skinks with croxies in it, so 2 croxies in a unit of skinks. And javelins with blowpipes, I can never quite remember. Then he has a unit of Saurus warriors, and he actually had his BSB join that unit. I don't have a pic of that, mainly because his knights were quite far out and he wanted the BSB reroll. Then on the left of that he has another unit of skinks with Croxigores. We then see he has a unit of Pterodons, and off to the far left we see a unit of Saurus Coldron Cavalry. Again, a unit you don't see all that often these days, but a unit to be respected. In terms of magic, he had pretty much all the spells he could ever want. He didn't have Lawmaster because he was cutting it very fine on his magic points, but he was sitting with Pit of Shades, both the shadow debuffs, no Ockhams, but that was kind of irrelevant, Steed of Shadows, which proved quite useful for him. And then in light he's sitting with Fars, he's sitting with Baronas, he's sitting with Banishment. Really just a painful magic phase. Oh yeah, and Speed of Light as well. So, rolling off the first turn, and first turn was mine. My spells I suppose I should actually go through incidentally. I've got the movement spell, I've got protection, I've got the bonus attack, and I've got the killing blow buff. Not really my preferred spell, but yeah, you take what you can get and I have plenty to work with. So, on to the first turn. My bad. Before we jump into the first turn, of course, there's his scouts. 5 chameleon skings coming around just to really irritate me. and you have to deal with them, otherwise they will end caskets and hyrotitans and all of that good stuff. So yes, okay, I promised once, we'll try it again. On to the first turn. So his turn begins, moving the skinks round to harass my poor snakes. He's getting quite aggressive, obviously, on the left flank, where I've got nothing to really contain him. So shoving up these cavalry as fast as they can, and letting the flying cav, the pterodon riders, really encroach in on my flank. And yeah, there's very little I can actually do about that, because he has moved rather dramatically outnumbered. So anyway, I'll be forced to deal with that. In the center, we can see he just shoves it up with a fairly solid battle line. It's all infantry, they're all protecting each other, he's keeping his flanks guarded. Nothing really unusual, just good solid play really. We then see this left flank here, or sorry, not the left, this is the right flank, where he's shoving up and really trying to protect himself. Pay a little bit of attention to that space behind that big rock on the right. There's one unit of skinks over there. I don't actually get a shot of it right up until the end, but in the beginning of his magic phase he casts Steed of Shadows, and he shoves that frog there where I really can't touch it, I can't see it, I can't do anything to it, and he's just lobbing Pit of Shades and other such annoyances at me from there all day. Actually a really impressive move. So, taking a look at what happens in his magic phase, he gets that Steed of Shadows off. Intriguingly enough, this is when he pulled out that Forbidden Rod. So he actually rolled a fairly low magic phase. He rolled a 5, so a 3 and a 2. Nobody channeled anything, and then he yanked out that rod. He rolled 1d6 extra power dice for it, got him 6 power dice, and the one wound that it almost did, he made his ward save. So from very minimal, he put the pressure on right up front, and I couldn't let that Pit of Shades go through first turn, so he managed to draw out my Dispel Scroll in turn 1. Really quite scary. Shooting did very little. I think he put one wound onto a Snake Knight, and that's it. Onto the 2 kings for turn 1. Okay, so start of my first turn. First thing I want to do is deal with those chameleon skinks. The primary threat as far as I'm concerned. They get around my lines, they're going to stick wounds all over the show on my construct. I'm not liking it. So the War Sphinx is moving around, and he's going to use his breath weapon. I think it's a very well spent breath weapon to get rid of chameleon skinks. We then see the top over here, so top right. Okay, this is quite a complex little set of charges, and this is the reason I like using speedy elements. So what happened here was the chariots declared a charge on the skinks, who fled, and they rolled very poorly, so I decided to stick with the charge. As you can see, they caught them and turned, but before that happened, the Necrosphinx declared a charge on the rearmost salamander. He fled because he quite rightly realized that if he stood and I killed him, I would then be able to reform, and he would now be staring down a flying monster, able to charge any one of his troops in the back. So he declared he fled that. I redirected, and once again, people have asked before, is it worth taking a king instead of a prince? I had a number of redirects that I required in this game, and leadership rolls of 10 versus 9 actually matter, and this was one of them. So the Sphinx redirects and goes straight into the second sally. He chose to hold, I presume because he wants to flank me, and again, it's a gamble I know I have to take, but I really like this reach out and touch someone ability of the Sphinx. Jumps on forwards, that Necrosphinx forces the issue where I want it. Something that you can't do with the War Sphinx. So anyway, that's all the charges that happened there. Obviously the chariots killed the skinks they caught. They reformed to get involved. Didn't take a whole lot. The Necrosphinx killed the salamander. In case anyone's wondering, no heroic killing blow or even normal killing blow did absolutely nothing. But thankfully I can stomp beasts, so Thunderstomp did the hard work. And he overran into the Stegodon. Now's when anyone with a gambling bent can place bets as to whether Heroic Killing Blow actually catches the snake. We'll find out shortly. So Lizzie turn 2. The Chameleon Skink has panicked, so there's one surviving Chameleon Skink of the birth weapon. He has panicked and will continue to run for the rest of the game. We see these pterodons have used their forest flying ability and have dropped rocks on the snakes and have managed to kill one snake. And the Saurochs Cav are now turning their way, ready to catch my snakes in the flank. That marsh that everyone's avoiding, incidentally, is a mystery swamp, which is precisely why neither of us want to get our initiative 2 and 3 and 1 troops in it. That can be an absolute nightmare for things like Monstrous Cav, by the way. Every time you fail an initiative test, you take D3 models off. Not means models. It's just not pretty. We then see over here, he's encroaching on me a little more. He's taken that one unit of Sphinx and Proxies and flanked my poor Necrosphinx. He's going to bombard me with magic while he does that. And again, I'm okay with it. He's there to actually die. If he doesn't die, that's fantastic. But he's there to basically just pull apart what would normally be a very solid battle line. And again, that's what his speed is for. And we see on the right here, he's been a very sneaky git. He's pulled out, he's got a lone little skink chief, and that skink chief is sitting in the way, trying to prevent a charge. A little bit of being rusty, as he played for it for a month or two. He actually forgot to turn the skink chief, which would have prevented an overrun into the Stegodon. Yeah, you live, you learn. Sometimes you blunder. So anyway, it comes to his magic phase, and it's a big magic phase, and again I'm very short of him on dice, and he starts pulling out all the tricks. He manages to cast some buff on himself. He managed to get falls with a miscast, so he's protecting his Stegodon, and he puts one wound on his light wizard while doing so. He manages to drop the Sphinx's strength by 3, and he manages to drop a pit of shades around, and he takes out my casket. My casket has done very little aside from drawing out a cube of darkness from him last turn. So, not even sure if it was the cube. No, it was. Drew out the cube, and that's why my magic phase was so uninspiring last turn. Anyway, so that's magic. It's unpleasant. Combat doesn't really achieve all that much. He manages to put one wound onto the Necrosphinx. The Necrosphinx crumbles another wound. He manages with the massive strength 10 hero killing blow to do one wound to the Stegodon, but of course doesn't actually kill it. And he's killed 2 or so skinks with his massive strength too, so I'm quite impressed with that. Really. Lizard magic. They do what we do at 2/3 of the price. I love it. Okay, so how do I respond to this? I'll show you in the next video.